All right. So let's move forward to the Red Sox. We've wasted a lot of oxygen and carbon dioxide on the Red Sox's roster this spring training. Opening day is essentially upon us. Kristian Campbell, it seems, is going to be at second base. Marcelo Mayer and Roman Anthony are going to be in the minor leagues. The way that everything's come together in the past week plus, where do you guys sit on this opening day roster, allowing for the fact that it is probably not going to look entirely the same come May 1st, June 1st, July 1st, September 1st?
I feel great about it, honestly, and maybe I'm too optimistic, but the more I've thought about it, like the only real issue I see is the Devers thing and whether that becomes a distraction and turns into something bad. But if that just plays out and it's fine, I'm really high on this team. The more I've thought about it, like we spent so much time about whether Christian Campbell deserves the job, this and that, but like the Red Sox, one of the biggest ways they are improved from recent seasons is just their depth. I mean, yeah, the starting rotation's much better. I think the bullpen has the potential to be really good if everything clicks. But from a depth standpoint, it's like there's so much more well positioned to withstand big injuries than they were. Like if Trevor Story goes down, you have Marcelo Meyer or Ceddanne Rafaela. If Christian Campbell's just not cutting it and he needs more time, I think David Hamilton is a really good stopgap, or you move Alex Bregman over to second base. I think Romy Gonzalez is a good depth player. And then the outfield, you have Duran, Abreu, and Rafaela. And if one of those guys gets hurt, you have the number one prospect in baseball ready to come up. Not to mention the fact that like their starting pitching depth already is showing up, where you have three guys it looks like that aren't going to be ready, and I think you feel pretty good about the two guys that are going to come in for the fourth and fifth spot. So, yeah, I just think they're so much more well positioned to handle bumps in the road or injuries or even a slow start this year than in years past. So I'm high on the Red Sox.
I'm so excited about Richard Fitz. Like I that stuff plays. Like I think obviously he will probably get bumped into more of like a Josh Winkowski long relief role once guys start coming back, but I'm glad that he will get
I
at
don't
least a
know
good turn through the rotation.
if he can consistently hit, because the problem with him was like he had good stuff, but he wasn't missing bats, and part of that was like his fastball just wasn't good enough. It was like 93, 95 without good shape. Now it's like 96 to 98 with great shape, and it's getting a lot of swings and misses. And when that happens, your secondary stuff plays up so much better. And so, like, if that's legit, I mean, I think I could absolutely see him running with a fourth or fifth starter job. And then it
Yeah.
just comes down to, when the other guys are healthy.
Yeah, we'll see. I am equally optimistic on the Red Sox as you are. I still contend that they are not sending their best lineup out. Granted, they're putting Yoshida on the IL. I have already expressed my skepticism about that injury, but in any
Shame.
event, I still think their best lineup is with Bregman at second, Devers at third, and Yoshida as the DH. I don't think that's going to happen right now, so it is what it is. I think I want to speak for Ben, but I think Ben and I have been a little less bullish on Kristian Campbell as Dakota has, in part because, we're talking about someone who less than 2 years ago was a fourth round pick and not on a lot of radars. And now, he's a top 10 prospect in baseball and breaking camp as their second baseman. Agreed that they have a worthwhile stopgap so they can try this. Like David Hamilton, perfectly fine. Romy Gonzalez is perfectly fine. Ceddanne Rafael is perfectly fine. Like they have the options there, but I still just wonder. We're talking about a guy who got off to a really bad start offensively this spring. Like, I know he can make loud contact. I know that he's turned things around in some ways, but I'm just curious to see how quick of a hook they have. Because to me, it's not that productive to have him up there for opening day if you're going to send him down in 10 days when he goes 0 for 15. Um,
That won't happen. That won't happen. I mean, I think with him, it's gonna be about what are the at
I'll
bats.
remember that.
Yeah.
Well, and they're not going to send him down that quick. I mean, they'll give him at least a month. I mean, like remember Pedroia, remember Tristan Cassis, but like his first
But
month a couple years ago.
I mean,
Like,
they're going to run out of chairs with all, I mean, Yoshida will eventually come back. Some of those pitching moves could end up shrinking the bench a little bit or changing the complexion of the bench a little bit.
yeah,
Um,
I just think that, again, it's what do the at bats look like? Like, I don't care about the baseball card stats. It's like a couple years ago, Tristan Cassis got off to that awful April, and people were talking about maybe sending him down or benching him for a little bit. But it was like if you looked at the at bats, He was showing a really good approach at the plate. He was taking a lot of pitches. He had a really sound approach. And a lot of the batted ball data was just bad luck. Like he was hitting it right at guys. Like it wasn't nearly as bad as the baseball card says.
So that's
So with Campbell, it's like if it's the same thing, like maybe he's not tearing the cover off the ball, but like there's more to it than that. And if they feel, I think that was what was going on this spring. Like the at bats early in the spring were bad, and then halfway through he took a turn and he started putting together really good at bats, and then the results started to follow. And I think that's what they want to see.
that concept flies in the face of the idea that the Red Sox are competing now.
Totally
Like
disagree.
the objective should be the playoffs, right?
Right, but you don't
And
need.
that's
You don't
hold
need.
on, hold on, hold on. If you listen, you might learn something. So
Doubt it.
if
Doubt it.
if the objective of like the Tristan Casas point is a very good one. That team wasn't expected to be good 2 years ago. So if you're intent on winning this year, I don't go have good at bats in Worcester. Like if he's not hitting well, then I think that like you have to pick a lane. This is what we have said the Red Sox refuse to do for years. Are you trying to give the kids a look or are you trying to win? And obviously, the intent now is to win. If that's the case, you're not letting Kristian Campbell strike out a bunch or struggle at the plate for a month if you think that if David Hamilton is sitting there not playing, like it's not going to work that way. So that makes me question the merits of even having him up here in the first place. Because it's like, go have your good at bats in Worcester, straighten that out. I'm totally fine with that. But the idea that he's just going to figure it out in the majors and they're going to give him all this leash, like, and again, we're talking about a guy who's probably going to hit eighth in the lineup, but at the same time, it's like they giving him all this runway to figure it out when you have perfectly acceptable replacements goes against this idea that it's like we're here to win and it's full throttle to borrow.
No, but I disagree because I think you want to strike a balance. Like if your bar is always all 9 guys got to be above average regulars right away, then when are you ever going to give a prospect a chance to develop? And so the problem is that in recent years the Red Sox have had too many black holes in the lineup. They've been giving too much time to too many guys to figure it out. You can have you can withstand two like guys really not holding their weight in the lineup. It can't get to 3, 4, let alone 5. Where like in 2022, right? They were letting Bobby Dalbec figure it out. They were playing Kike Hernandez through horrible struggles. They were running out Jackie Bradley Jr., Christian Arroyo, a lot of guys who were adding nothing, and it's like that's just too many. But 2 is fine, and I'm including. So I'm saying Rafaela and Campbell,
Yeah.
but I think Rafaela could have a good year, right? So I think good teams, which I think the Red Sox are, can afford to have 2 guys at the bottom of the lineup figuring it out. It just can't get to be any more than that. So like, yeah, if we get into the season and let's say like Willie Abreu is really struggling or something, well, I don't know, or maybe Connor Wong takes a huge step back, and then also Campbell and Rafaela aren't performing well. A change has to be made there, whether it's Campbell or it's Rafaela going super utility and Anthony coming up. So I just think it's kind of like it's 2 but no more. So yeah, I mean, I can see a situation where they kind of give up on him or send him down, but I think a lot of other things would have to be going wrong in the lineup for that to happen.
Not giving up on him by sending him
No,
down.
I mean, like not giving up, but you don't want to send a guy back down because you run the risk of torpedoing his confidence. Like
That's my point. Is there's no benefit to having him on the roster right now. Like
unless you believe in him,
he goes
they
off
believe
and
in him.
he's as MLB ready as people are suggesting he is. But it's like to me, there's far more of a likelihood that you tank this guy's confidence and you go and you let him get knocked around for 3 weeks or however long, and that blows up against you. So that's my trepidation.
Campbell's going to be an interesting litmus test for this whole launch angle revolution because you raised Casas as an example, and yeah, a lot of times what these launch angle guys struggle with when they first come up is velo, because what's the way that now that as a pitcher you battle the launch angle swing? It's with high hard fastballs. So I do think that there is a difference between a minor leaguer coming up and seeing that in the first time in July or August when those pitchers are a little bit worn down versus April when most people are fresh. So it will be interesting to see how he does. I do think he could be 0-15 with 11 strikeouts. But to that point, I don't think that means that he won't won't have been ready or shouldn't have had him up here, because he does need to see that at some point, like if he's going to have success. But I think it will be interesting, because if he comes up and he does have success with that approach at the plate, I think it's a really good example that for some hitters, particularly ones that are mid-round draft picks and need to find a offensive approach that translates a little bit better to the major leagues, that can be effective. And then I think if he does struggle, it can be in the other direction. It can say, well, we have to keep in mind that, the launch angle adjustment to the swing, like the one that he had in 2024, the winter of 2023, can bear some fruit and have you a really quick spike. But in the long run, it's not necessarily for everybody, and I don't know if it's necessarily for a second baseman of his stature.
Yeah, I also think there's something to be said for, the fact that with the additions they made and the other players they've had emerge on the roster over the last couple of years, there's just not like a ton of pressure on him. Like he's going to put pressure on himself generally because he's a top prospect and you want to live up to that and everything. But he's not coming in here to hit in the middle of the lineup and like sort of save the Red Sox lineup, which is why I like the Bregman signing so much. Is it just allows Kristian Campbell to slot in where he should, which is 8th in the lineup and not expected to put up huge stats. He can find his way. But of course, on the extreme end, yeah, if he's really bad, then that changes the math. But, and I think he looked a lot more comfortable both in the field and at the plate after it started becoming clear that he was going to make the team. It looked like he was playing a bit more free. And so I think there's a chance he carries that into the regular season. But like, I'm totally with you guys on the possibility that it goes the other way. I mean, there are how many examples of this happening with prospects. So by no means am I like, he's going to like sure thing, he's going to kill it. But I just think it's not a huge deal if he struggles right away. I think he at least gets a month.
I would not feel this way if it were Marcelo Meyer, and I don't know entirely why that is. But and maybe it's just because like Meyer's been around a little bit longer. Like the main knock against him has been injuries and things like that. But to me, it's like
I think Campbell's older.
Yeah, but he's been in the organization a little longer,
right?
And I mean, playing pro level baseball is different. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because Meyer has been more clearly identified as a middle infielder, like second base feels like a good fit for him. Maybe I'm, victim of the moment takes, like watching all the loud contact he's making and getting a little, intoxicated by that. Who knows? But I don't know. Also, we're talking about a 6-month difference between Kristian Campbell and Marcelo Meyer in age.
Right. I do also like I've heard Lou Merlone talk a lot about this, and I agree with it that these three guys came into spring in different places, and I think there was a lot of pressure and attention on Campbell and Anthony as like these two top 10 prospects. Some think Campbell's ahead of Anthony. Both were being talked about as possibly making the opening day roster, and I think at times you saw them pressing a little bit. And trying to get comfortable, whereas Meyer came in and nobody was really talking about him. I mean, people were talking about him, but no one was thinking he was going to make the opening day roster, and I think people just wanted to see him healthy and playing again. And I think he just played a lot more free and relaxed, and that showed up on the field. Whereas I think it took a while for Anthony and Campbell to start settling in and not overthinking things so much.
A tease ahead to something. We don't have to get into it today, but I think the one area of this team where I feel like the floor is not a playoff caliber team is the bullpen.
Yep.
Every other area, I think ceiling is sky high, floor is at least wild card. But that is something that would bear watching. We should revisit that a week from now when we've had a couple games to observe, because especially with Chapman being named the closer, I think the ceiling could be high if everyone is healthy, everyone is actually throwing strikes. But I am a little concerned about where the floor of things could literally fall out from a lot of those pitchers. So just put a pin in that and just kind of like, I'm going to make a note for that to be on the docket for next week.
When they signed him, I think my response was, I want him nowhere near the 9th inning.
There you go.
They put a lot of eggs in the Liam Hendricks will be our 9th inning guy basket and did not expect him to get smacked this spring.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it was the first episode I'd said, like, I love I love Chapman as like your fireman in the seventh or your top lefty. I think that's a great spot for someone like him. I think I was on the show saying like they did not sign him to be their closer, and so that didn't bear out. So I'm concerned about that too. I just think like there's a non-zero chance that someone like Justin Slayton eventually seizes that job, or
I'd be
Luis
fine with that.
Guerrero. Luis Guerrero is like doing it by July, or if need be, they have plenty of capital to go out and trade for somebody. So like I just don't see a scenario where they let the closing role be like a huge problem too deep in the season.